Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Writing Tip Tuesday. I'm Sammy, and I'm a writer who likes to help other writers become better writers. This week, I am returning to my writer's notebooks. I made a video on all of the notebooks that I use. It is really popular, actually, and I wanted to dive back in and actually fill out my new idea notebook, because since I made that video, I have not touched it because I wasn't positive how I wanted to set it up, and I have some decision paralysis going on, but I think I figured it out. But I am going to channel my inner bullet journal girly and do a top-down video and a voiceover to talk through what I'm thinking about and see if that might help you set up your writing journal, or if you can take any ideas from how I'm setting up mine and use it to influence your own. So I am going to transition over into my voiceover so we can get into this, and I will see you guys later.
All right, let's get into this notebook. It is the same one that I showed in my video on all of the ways that I use writing notebooks. I am just going to start setting it up with the things that I think will work best. I'm actually going to skip that first page because it's glued to the decorative page in front of it, which makes it kind of hard to write on. But this first section is just going to be an index because I'm going to do a lot of just organizing in this, and I'm going to use several pages for it just to make sure I have enough space to continue referencing different things as more ideas come in or more information about ideas comes in. And it's honestly several pages. This is going to be 5 pages of index, and I'm hoping that I won't need all of it, but we'll see. So to make this index usable, I have to number these pages because they came blank, which is totally fine. I don't normally have to number pages, but because I want everything to be referenced, this is going to be super important. I decided that maybe numbering the evens and the odds wouldn't be entirely necessary for me. I do, in fact, know what number comes before each odd number, and I know that they are an even number, so if I need to reference a certain page that is an even number, I know that it's going to be between the 2 odd numbers that are on either side of it, and it's just a lot easier to not have to move your pen as much, to just cycle through and number just the one side of the page and still be able to reference every single page in your journal as the numbers go on. I stopped at 75 because I really wanted to get into the meat of this. A majority of the system that I am setting up here is using the index and then this top corner with the date section to make shorthand codes for what is going to be on the page. So this first section is the what if questions. So I wrote WI question mark on that top section, and using that little space is going to let me be able to reference what's on the page, whether I am looking at just flipping through the corners on the top or just flipping through the corners on the bottom. I'll have the numbers to reference from the index. What if questions are one of my main ways of coming up with story ideas, and I did talk about that in last week's Writing Tip Tuesday on how I come up with ideas. So keeping those in mind is super, super helpful, and having a space for them is a great way to lead to having a prompt for when I want to write something that I don't necessarily have everything figured out. This next section is going to be super, super useful, I know, because it's been in every single one of my idea notebooks up until this point. Normally, it has been a sticky note that I put into the cover rather than actual pages that I dedicate to it, but I think having pages is going to make it a little bit easier to reference, and I will be leaving this ribbon in here so that it'll be easier to find at a glance as well. This is going to be my names I like section, because if there's one thing that I am the worst at, it's names. It's remembering people's names. It's remembering characters' names. It's naming my characters, naming my worlds, naming my book stories, whatever. I am terrible with names, so I like to keep track of names that I enjoy, names that I associate with other things, and this way I can put in names that I know I like, and I can also mark them off if I have used them in the past, so I won't end up having 7 books with all the same name as my main cast of characters, because I'm oh, I like this name anytime that I think of those. So we're doing girls' names, boys' names, and genderless names because I think those are all very important to cycle through, and it's a lot easier to Google search those particular search terms. And I am continuing that page reference system by writing names in the corner. It's not like a 3-part code like I was intending for most of these to fit into that date section, but it is short enough to just put the word names in there. And then of course we're going to jump back into the index, which is going to be my through line through most of this, and put in those page numbers and the subcategories into it. So girls' names is going to get their own line, boys' names also their own lines. Don't mind me, just going to casually flip back because I do not remember how many pages I dedicated to this. What is that? 3 pages? 4 pages? 3 pages. All right, 3 pages for all of them. We are going to put those into the index. I'll fill that in some other time once I can pull out the other idea notebook and put in the names that are on that list. If you have any names, if you have a unique name, if you have any names that you like always adore when characters are named that, just let me know in the comments. I am the worst with names, so coming up with names is not fun for me, and if it's fun for you, let me know, because I am happy to use names that are suggested for sure. So those are the main sections that I know I'll be referencing a lot, which is why I wanted them at the front of the notebook. But this is going to be an example of how I would do some story development work of sorts into this section. So in my little code, I've got DYS, SL, which is going to stand for Dream, Dystopian Slavery, which is me referencing the story that I used as an example in my last video from coming up with story ideas from dreams. So I'm going to fill this out the way that I would if I had just had the dream and was thinking about it and developing it into a story. So the way that I would do it is write out what actually happened in the dream and then take what I can from that and put it into how I think it could make a story. What are the characters? How do the characters relate? What are they going to have to overcome? What's the conflict? How is the conflict going to work out? I'm not going to write the conflict in here because if I want you to read it when it comes out, I shouldn't tell you everything that's going to happen. So I did underline that 3-part code that I'm going to use in my index here so that if anybody were to open this, they wouldn't be like, oh, clearly I'm going to find the dream dystopian slavery story here. But I'll know what it means, and on the first page of each section that will have this code in it, I'll write out the title on it. So I started that on page 37, and then I'm not sure how far it'll go, so I'm just going to leave that blank because it's going to have more time for me to develop, more time for me to put like maybe these characters' names and that kind of stuff. So I would leave a few pages behind this open, but if something comes up and I end up writing in later, I can also just change that to be like 37 to 38 comma, whatever next section. I am just going to go through and finish off numbering these pages because I had an idea that I think would be better referenced at the back of the notebook, which is a bullet pointed list of story ideas that are just like one sentence, sort of like blah things that make complete sense to me. I had this in a different notebook, but these are just ideas that came up without fully fleshing them out. I don't have enough details to be able to dedicate a whole page to them. They're just sort of like, this is a thought of a story that I might want to make at some point. So gonna put that into my index as you would expect. I'm leaving a little bit of space behind the dystopians page on here so that that can have more room to grow if I need to put commas in, if it ends up being another section, which will be something that I will do consistently across any time I put a story in here. I'll anticipate 4 more pages being needed. But that is all that I'm going to share on camera, just because I don't want to give all of my secrets away, you know? I think the structure of this is going to be super helpful for anyone who needs to come up with an idea notebook system but doesn't know where to start. This could be a great place to start. Having some kind of code system, some kind of way of referencing, if you're not going to use a notebook like the tool notebooks or a disc-bound notebook in general to be able to move your pages around. I really like this how it is right now, and I'm a big bullet journaler. I've been bullet journaling for like 7 years now, so having something that is a similar structure is also going to be really consistent for me, and having something that feels good to reference is also going to be a lot of fun to go through. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the outro here in a second, but thanks for listening to me chat here.
But that is all that I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like. It'll really help me out and show YouTube that maybe other people will enjoy this video. If there's anything in here that you think will be helpful for you, please let me know in the comments. I'm super excited to hear about it. This was a lot of fun, so let me know know if you have any interest in doing more of these like with me kind of activities, and I would be happy to do some of those again in the future. If you don't want to miss any of my uploads, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. I'm here every Tuesday and Saturday for Writing Tip Tuesdays and Story Study Saturdays, though I will not be here for either of those next week, this coming Saturday and the next Tuesday, maybe the next Saturday too. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna be out and about, so make sure you hit the notification bell so that you know exactly when I am going to be back online and you can join me again for another video. But I will see you guys very soon.